Yep.
No, I was trying to talk to you. Never mind. Can but I can't talk to you because we're live now, right? Oh, I was just going to say, do I need to have my screen on? Right. I should have the screen on, right?
The video? Stand by.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to a very special hour where we are going to, my name is Katia Stitt. I'm the program director here at WPFW. And as you heard earlier, Friends of the Congo and other Congolese who are for complete total sovereignty and independence had a rally today down as close to the White House as possible, because now, as of, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago, Lafayette Park is completely closed off. You cannot enter the park. And they have dogs that sniff you as you walk by, I believe, what is 8th Street there. Very interesting scene, but they were down there, as were Congolese who are pro-Trump. There's actually an organization, Congolese for Trump, and who believe that Trump will save them. Save the continent, we'll save Africa, we'll save Congo. So we're going to unpack all of that today. One of my guests is Kito from the Friends of the Congo. Good afternoon, Kito. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely, always. Well, I wanted to start with you. I know Maurice Carney, the executive director of Friends of the Congo, will join us, and hopefully Jessica will be joining us a little later as well. I actually saw her downtown at the protest. But talk to us about why the work, especially in this moment, of Friends of the Congo and all those organizations, Future of Congo, all the organizations fighting for a free, truly free and independent, decolonialized Congo is so important. And what is the work specifically of Friends of the Congo? I know that you all have many, many organizations under the umbrella, I believe, of the Basanja Coalition, as well as Synergy Defem, that work with the Congolese people. Today, we're seeing the historic signing, some might say stealing, official stealing of minerals by the US, who were already complicit, frankly. But this historic agreement being signed between the president of Rwanda and the president of Congo. Talk to us about the impact that we have already seen, even before this signing, because we know that this impact will just this signing, this official deal will just exacerbate, frankly, what is on the ground now, what's happening on the ground now. But talk to us about the work of the Basanja Coalition of Synergy Defem, with the population of folks that they work with there, and why it's so important that they do that work. Jessica is joining us. Hold that. Oh my gosh, everyone's there. Okay, so Kito, if you just hold your thought on that, because they are there out in force. Of course, I see your pro-Trump brothers and sisters behind you. But thank you for joining us today. Would you please, because I know there's a number of folks there, this is live from the rally that is still going on for a free and independent, truly free and independent Congo. So would you all introduce yourselves, each of you, please, and tell us about what has been happening down there today. I was out down there, as you know, for a very short time and could not believe what I was seeing, which was this Congolese for Trump contingent. And when I asked them, by the way, I did stay and ask them about, what about the teachings of Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba? And they told me that both Lumumba and Sankara would be on board with this, which was astounding. So talk to us about what's happening down there and why Friends of the Congo and others are down there today.
Well, I'm Elvie from the Future of Congo. And so we've been here since about 11 after the ceremony was signed. So the signing ceremony was for the peace agreement between the US, Rwanda, and Congo, which is supposedly put forth to bring about peace and cease to the violence that has been ongoing, perpetuated by Rwanda's proxy army M23. And so we came to be an opposing voice to this peace deal because we see it as neo-colonial propaganda to further entrench U.S. control in Congo and to deepen its ability to extract resources and minerals from the Congo. Because we've noticed in conversations that we've had with the diaspora desk and going through the peace deal that there is no language that ensures justice and accountability for the perpetrators of this violence. So justice for the victims, no inclusion of civil societies in the peace deal and communication with the community in this peace deal. So it's not a peace deal that's founded on, as you said, true sovereignty and long-lasting sustainable peace for the Democratic Republic of Congo, but really just to further continue neocolonialism perpetuated by the United States of America and by the elites of Congo and Rwanda.
And thank you for that, Elvie. And Jessica, could you, first of all, introduce yourself, but also talk to us, if you could, about really the nuts and bolts of this deal, and why would the president of Congo agree to this deal? This is what many, I think, the lay people who are on the outside don't understand. If it is not good for Congo and he wants peace, but I'm assuming he may also want true sovereignty for his country, why enter into this agreement?
Sorry, there's a lot of yelling here. Let me
Sure.
go away from this. But unfortunately, this has been an historical tradition. These presidents are not here to serve the Congolese people. They're here for neocolonial puppets, and they just want to continue pillaging the country for their personal gain. The mere fact that there has been no military defense of the country of the East just proves furthermore how this president does not care about the population and only cares about enriching himself. So it's just the usual corruption, the usual neo-colonial political gain. All they care about is, again, political interest, control, and that is plain and simple why he would sign this deal. He wants to see himself aligning with one of the most powerful countries, and so to show that, oh, I'm doing something, but in reality he has literally done nothing. He's let over 8,000 people die since January. Babies have been raped, slaughtered. Women have been raped, slaughtered. This has been going on for 30 plus years. He literally went to Europe as the conflict escalated in January. So therefore, again, evidence based on evidence to show that this president is not for the Congolese people. And it's the fact that this agreement doesn't even mention the victims, doesn't mention any accountability mechanism at all. Again, further evidence that this is not for the Congolese people. This is for the political elite. As Alvi mentioned, this is for neo-colonial control, and they are happy to oblige.
And just to let our audience know again, we are live. Are you all now in front of the Institute for Peace, or are you still, are you back? You're at the Institute for Peace. Okay. And that is where the signers and Trump have moved to after the signing at the White House. So we are going live to the streets here in DC. And I believe, Quito, correct me, we are also simulcasting on what, IG or YouTube? Where are we as well? All of it. Okay. All right. Well, for those of you who may just be maybe being introduced to WPFW for the first time, we are a completely independent media outlet in Washington, D.C., part of the Pacifica Network. We are completely people-powered, which means that there is no corporate or governmental funding, which is why we can talk about this subject in such great detail and from this perspective, which is so very important. My name is Katia Stitt. I'm the program director here, and I'm joined by not only Quito from Friends of the Congo, but also Jessica from Friends of the Congo and Elvie from Future of Congo. And ladies, I want to take it back to you on the streets. As I mentioned, if you could tell us, so what is the mechanics of this mineral deal per se? Like so the US theoretically is ensuring peace. Does it state how that is going to happen, what the mechanism for that is, and what is that? And more importantly, what does it state about the minerals, Congo's minerals, and US intervention, control, access to them?
So in terms of the mineral deal component of this, and you probably heard this was talked about when there was like the initial preliminary signing of this peace agreement, and was talked about again with the press briefing, that was mentioned, that was conducted earlier. There is no transparency with this mineral deal. So there's no conversation that is at least open to the public, or open to, civil societies on if this is like which multinational stakeholders are part of this deal. What does this economic deal look like? Who's all involved? What are the mechanisms of it? What are sort of like the equity, involved in it? There's no conversation on that. So that's another element that is problematic about this peace agreement and the attachment of this language of, joint economic prosperity for the US and for Congo, because for Congolese within Congo, within the diaspora, we have no understanding on what this actually looks like, and if it will follow what we know to be with imperialist deals where there is more extraction than there is gain. However, there was language this morning at the press briefing about industries being created and how jobs will be brought to Congo as a result. However, again, no details, right? So there's a lot of vague language, but no details.
And to add, how do you bring industries? How do you create jobs? How do you have all this economic integration when there's no peace? It makes literally no sense. So that's just something I wanted to add as well. And there's all this is what was the language about military disarmaments, but there's no language about actual like retreating, retreating from the actual territory.
And no timeline
Yeah.
on when
So-
that should happen. No specific mechanisms on how that is to be brought about, and if it is violated in any way, what are the repercussions of that? And so we've seen, even since I believe June, when this was announced and there was the preliminary signing, there has still been active force by M23. There has been violations of the supposed ceasefire. There is still ongoing death and pillaging of villages and extraction of mineral resources. So none of which what was agreed upon in the initial signing has at all come to fruition. There has been no respect with like the sequences of events that should be happening in order to ensure that there is peace and a ceasement of violence. None of that has happened. So therefore, even the conditions on which the peace deal is being signed haven't been met. So it shouldn't be signed in all actuality. So the fact that they're continuing forth with it, although conditions they set forward haven't been met, just shows that this is all for greater gain, for whatever sort of economic mutual benefit these elites feel that they're getting from it.
Mm-hmm. And what is the mood, not the mood, well, the mood, but also, we know that the Basanja Coalition and again, Synergy de Femme and many other organizations there working on the ground. What is the feeling of the people on the ground? I mean, are they aligned? As I said, I meant these Congolese for Trump. And I suspect, unfortunately, there are also Congolese for Trump in Congo, doing this work. But what on the other side, what is the feeling, or on both sides, what is the feeling of people around this agreement? Do they feel some sort of, I'm talking about on the ground now, are they under the impression that with this signing, there will be some relief to them? With this signing, the RSF finally will be, we know they won't be held accountable, but at least will be made to conduct themselves in a different kind of way, not as a raping, pillaging, occupying force, but actually seceding from the territory and not being allowed to engage in Congo in this manner.
So I do want to preface this by saying that Congo is not a monolith and Congolese people are not a monolith. So I think it's really important that there is this dissent and people do see the dissent even within the community, because it allows us to understand what are sort of the interests that are at play here and what are people aligned to when it comes to their understanding of what liberation means for Congo. So I think it's really important for us to have these conversations and to put that out there. And so there are people in Congo who are, pro-Trumpers. There are also people in Congo who are anti-imperialism and see this as another rendition of imperialism and how neo-colonialism plays out, because we do understand that the U.S., because they see China as a threat and China's dominance in the mineral sector, has been trying to find a foothold back on the African continent, especially in a region like the Great Lakes region, which Congo has one of the greatest mineral wealths within that region, is trying to find its way back into there, right? So with the Lobito corridor and now with this peace agreement, this is an addition of the U.S. finding a way to come back into the African continent, come back into the mining industry economically as a stronghold, under the guise of we're coming as a form of protection, we're coming as a form of aid to rescue you all from, this violence that M23 has been enacting. And so I think in that aspect, some folks may see it as an incremental step in the right direction. Other folks see it as imperialism, just acting again, another rendition of neocolonialism. And some see it, especially those who are most impacted. So violence against women's groups, right? Or sexual assault groups, I should say, sorry. They see it that they're being excluded from the conversation. So how much of this, as they are the primary victims of this, how much of this deal benefits them when they're completely excluded from it? So we have to be very critical of what people support, how they support it, and then also understand what's their positionality. What do they stand to gain from it all? And as you can see from those who were, the pro-Trumpers that you met in front of the White House, For them, they see the economic aspects of it. So if America is entering this deal and America has money to make in Congo, they want to at least see Congolese people getting a few of the breadcrumbs that fall off
Right.
of the bread on that table. So that's how they look at it.
Right, I see. Go ahead, Jessica. Do you want to add something?
To also add about there is also a colonized mentality that many of these, unfortunately, that is the most people here are Congolese for Trump. So they think that the white man is going to save them. And that is unfortunately the system, the education system in our country. We have been colonized to think that this white savior is always going to save us, despite the overwhelming evidence that they do the opposite. So these people, they look at Trump as some sort of god because, again, Europe, US, white, the white race is the savior. So I just wanted to preface that. And also, since the pillaging and the escalation of violence, Rwanda has, I think they tripled the money that they're getting. They're making even more money off of the stolen minerals. So the data's there.
Yeah, true exploitation. And then we're going to go to break in a moment, but I just wanted to start the conversation because you did mention China all over the continent, as we know. Also understanding that the Chinese are building infrastructure, bridges, tunnels, all sorts of things. Talk to us about, or give us if there is a rebuttal for people who say, well, China's in there anyway, so it doesn't matter that the U.S. is in there in this way, or that Europe is in there, or the Gulf states that we see in there. What is the rebuttal to that when people say that? It doesn't matter. In other words, it really doesn't matter who the ruler is because we already have China, so why not the U.S.? It would be better for us, for instance.
I would say the rebuttal to that is to put Africa first, right? I think we too often center conversations on the West versus the East, and the West being, the US, European states, and then the East being China and or Russia, and what their relationship is with the US. And it's often based on who is able to dominate the world. And Africa is the vessel through which people dominate the world because that is where the wealth comes from. And so to that argument, I would say that we need to start centering what is best for Africa, right? Why is it not that we should have sovereignty and ownership over what it is that we have within our country, rather than an argument of who is allowed to come in and pillage? And I do remain critical of the over criticism of China as a way to deflect from US imperialism. So while I am critical of that, I do maintain the fact that neither West nor East should be making any sorts of deals in Africa, particularly in Congo, that does not center Congolese people first. And the Congolese people being the true people of the land, not the elites.
Thank you. And Jessica, do you want to add anything before we go to break? I don't know, maybe she stepped away. Oh, there she is.
No, I think.
Would you like to add anything?
Albie articulated that perfectly.
Okay, very good. Well, again, please stay with us, ladies. And I know Maurice has joined us. We are live in the streets of DC. We're live on Facebook, Instagram. We see Lucy Murphy back there, legendary, artist for liberation with us or with them.
Hi.
Hey, Bertha, thank you for joining us. So we are live in the streets of DC. They are out there holding it down, saying no to this corrupt peace deal. We can't even call it a peace deal. We use that in quotations. We are going to take a short break. We're going to hear about Venezuela in this break, another sovereign nation being attacked by the U.S. And then when we come back, we're going to continue with you ladies, if we can, as well as introducing and bringing on Maurice Carney, Executive Director of Friends of the Congo. So stay with us.
This is Medea Benjamin of Code Pink with the WPFW editorial. As Washington escalates towards confrontation with Venezuela, opinion polls show that in the United States and Venezuela, the majority oppose U.S. intervention. Yet instead of listening to the people, the Trump administration is charging ahead with escalation, labeling Venezuelan officials as terrorists, asserting the right to strike vessels in the Caribbean without evidence or congressional approval, tightening sanctions. This week, President Trump said something important, that he is willing to talk to President Nicolas Maduro. We hope so, but let's not be naive. The U.S. has used talks before as a cover for military action, including against Iran, engaging diplomatically one day while preparing strikes the next. So we have to ask, is this a sincere step towards peace or the prelude to something far more dangerous? The fundamental truth is that Venezuela is not our enemy, and war is not the answer. 28 million Venezuelans have already endured years of economic warfare through sanctions that block medicine, fuel, and basic goods. A U.S. military strike would only ignite an internal conflict and shatter countless lives. We've seen this story before: Iraq, Libya, Syria. So today, Code Pink calls on the White House to honor the will of the people and calls on Congress to rein in unauthorized military force and lift sanctions so Venezuelans can rebuild their own country in peace. For WPFW, I'm Medea Benjamin with Code Pink. You can learn more at codepink.org/Latin America.
And we are back. And again, my name is Katia Stitt. We are live with Friends of the Congo and Future of Congo on all platforms. Thank you, Quito, for making that happen, and Maurice. And am I joined still by my folks? Where are I hope from the streets, or did they leave? They might have left. Well, Maurice, it's you and I. And Quito, I'm sorry that they left. I wanted to ask them about agri-liberation, because I think that is so important. And Elvie made that point of basically Africa for Africans. That's what we're talking about. And that happens through the land. So I'm introducing now Maurice Carney of Friends of the Congo. Welcome, Maurice. Good to have you on, as always.
Good to be on, Katia.
It was, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No, those women were amazing. I was just like, keep it going.
They really are. I don't know, Quito, maybe you can reach out to Jessica or Elvie and tell them to hop back on if they can, because we want to keep up with what's happening in the streets. But in the meantime, Maurice, talk to us about this idea of agri-liberation, what that is, how that would truly bring liberation to not only Congo, but, to the whole of Africa. And this was something that both Sankara as well as Lumumba talked about, every great African Pan-Africanist really spoke of this. So talk to us about what that is for people that don't understand that movement.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's a really important point there, Katia, because when you inject the discussion of agri-liberation, you're now talking about the agency of Congolese people. I think, as Elvie stated, that we often have the discussions from a position of what the U.S. is doing, what Russia and China and other folks are doing, what the companies are doing, what Trump is doing, right? But what are the Congolese people doing? So centering the discussion around what the Congolese people are doing is a critical and important shift and position from which for us to have a conversation. And when we talk about agri-liberation, which is one of the tools or elements, or not even tools, but the philosophical grounding of the Basanja Coalition. This is a coalition of organizations throughout the Congo. They work in all four corners of the Congo: the north, the south, the east, and the west. And agri-liberation is foundational to how they educate, mobilize, and organize, right? And what agri-liberation, to make it simple for people to understand, is Petna Ndaliko, who's really the leading theoretician behind it. He heads up an organization called Yole Africa. He said that think of it as the African version of decolonization, right? He said when throughout Latin America and the Global South, people talk of decolonization, and there's a crop of scholars that talk about agri-liberation, which is the African version of decolonization. And they draw a lot from Cabral and Cabral's organizing in Guinea-Bissau. and Cape Verde. But at the center of it, as Cabral would say, is returning to the source, right? And what is the source? The source is the soil. The source is the African heritage. The source is what all is right there underground with Africans. That's where the answers are. A member of the Basanja Coalition is the Mbuti people, or the Twa, or the so-called Pygmy. And they have this principle of apa apa, which is embraced by the Basanja Coalition. Apa apa meaning right here, right now, right? And this is important because if you look at this agro-liberation philosophy, right, it says the answer is in the soil, it's in the Congo, it's in Africa. And if that is your positioning, then you don't see your salvation in Washington. You don't see that a peace deal in Washington is going to deliver what you need, in Lumata, in Chopo, right, in Beni, right? It's going to come from the people on the ground organizing in a way to reclaim their land, reclaim their wealth, and ultimately control their own affairs. So just the very introduction of agro-liberation gives you a fundamental shift in terms of your direction, right? Your direction is not Brussels, your direction is not Paris, your direction is not London, and it certainly isn't Washington, especially taking into consideration Washington's history in producing what we see existing in the Congo today in terms of abject poverty and perpetual conflict and imposition of neocolonial leaders. Washington mounted the largest covert action in the world to set that in motion, right? When it overthrew the democratically elected leadership of the Congo in the 1960s. So agro-liberation is drawing up on what is local. And Basanja itself, the name of the coalition that's spearheading this effort in different parts of the Congo, Basanja, in its very name, expresses this principle of agro-liberation. Because Basanja is a Topoke word. The Topoke in the northeast of the Congo, in the Congo Basin, rainforest, and Topoke, the Topoke word Basanja is a code of ethic that governs how human beings live in balance and harmony with all entities, the trees, the water, the animals, right? So that's fundamentally different from this capitalistic imperialist system that has put us in a climate emergency. So Basanja sees itself introducing this way of being as an attempt to rebalance the scales, as an attempt to play a constructive way and a constructive role in shifting the way the earth is going. And Congo is so critical for this because Congo is at the center of two dominant phenomena of our time. The climate emergency, Congo is at the center of it with this Congo Basin. The energy transition, which is introduced to mitigate the climate emergency, Congo is at the center of that as well because its minerals are key to powering this energy transition. So to have Congo, the Congolese people offering to the world a view, a way of thinking through the agro-liberation is complementary to its importance, the country's importance to the planet as a whole and where we're going as a human race.
And Maurice, we see so many young people, not only in the Congo and throughout the diaspora, but in the Congolese diaspora now, when I say that, but we see young people across the whole of Africa right now, really rising up, really organizing, mobilizing. Why do you think that, and even outside of the African diaspora, we see people organizing, mobilizing? Why do you think that is? And how is this mobilization done? I know with the Basanja Coalition, you all do some great work on the ground in Congo. How do you mobilize young people to understand how critical it is, their involvement, but also how critical it is that a change comes in their lifetimes for all of us?
Yeah. That's a really good question because the short answer is that the young people they tell you themselves, right? They say we fed up.
Right.
Right. When Abdurrahman Chiani and his network of folks took power in Niger, you had the journalists going in and asking people questions, and what is it that's got you out in the streets? And they're like, well, we have uranium and we don't have electricity. France has uranium. France doesn't have uranium, but it has electricity. Make that make sense. We want to make this make sense. So they're fed up, right? They're fed up of the exploitation. They're fed up of the plunder. They're fed up of the robbery. And it just didn't start like since the arrival of the Alliance of Sahel States. Remember, it was young people who chased Blaise Compaoré in 2014.
Yes.
Along with the market women, right?
Yes.
The would-be assassin of Thomas Sankara. So you've seen this popular education, political education, grassroots mobilizing, right? Organizing that has been taking place throughout West Africa. It happened in Sudan. There's a setback in Sudan, of course. We see it unfolding in Kenya today. We see the young people rising up in Madagascar. The young people in West Africa had joined with the Congolese in 2015 to try and resist its political elite in the Congo. They were crushed. But they're not, they haven't given up. So I think when you see Katia, a continent that is a continent of teenagers, that's what Africa is.
Yes,
right?
yes.
110 million Congolese, the median age is 17, right? So we're talking about a continent of teenagers and, they're unemployed, no jobs, limited opportunities. Oh, they're going to do something, right? They're going to do something. So these young people, for example, in the Bassanja Coalition, they just participated in a conference of parties in Belém, Brazil, a COP conference.
Yes, COP 30.
And they were there grounding and connecting with other young people from the Global South. So that's one of the ways that they're organizing and building international networks and solidarity. And this is vital for the Congo, right? The reason why it's vital for the Congo is because of the array of forces lined up against the Congolese people. Neighboring countries, right? Foreign governments, right? Multilateral institutions, World Bank, IMF, for example. Foreign corporations, right? And then their own local elites, because their local elites are right here in Washington right now, making a deal that by virtually all accounts, you heard the ladies on the street today, will not accrue to the benefit of the masses of Congolese. You heard from the 4 women who came to Washington back in June, and they were like, we don't even know about this deal. We weren't even consulted. Our concerns are not even part of it, right? So building that international solidarity is vital. That's what the young people are doing. But even more importantly, even before they got to Belém in Brazil, they had gathered from all corners of the Congo in the south of the Congo. They came from Mbandaka in the west, from Kinshasa, from Kisangani, from Goma, right? From Lubumbashi, and they all gathered in what they call a grounding session among the youth, in a way to continue to build their network, not just in the east of the Congo, or not just in the south, or not just in the north, or not just in the west, but throughout the entire country. And this is key for a country that is the size of Western Europe. You need that kind of a country that's been dismembered and separated because of the lack of infrastructure. Having these young people come together to organize in a way that they can build throughout the country is a key element of their organizing processes, right? So they have the agro-liberation philosophy. They have the solidarity, the Pan-Africanism and internationalism in place. But what is particularly special about these young people, Katia, they're building bridges in the rainforest so that women can get their crops from the field to the market. Right? They're organizing to build wells in the mining community so that thousands of villagers can get access to clean water. right? They engage with the traditional leaders in the peatlands so that they can get access to resources. So they're marrying the immediate material conditions of the people with the philosophy.
Right.
And undergirding all of that, the center of agri-liberation is food security. It's saying,
Yes.
if the people are hungry, they're not going to be organizing for change. So we're going to make sure we have food security grounded in an agri-liberation philosophy where we're taking into consideration of certainly the material conditions of the people, but also the psychosocial components of the people, our heritage, our culture. So you find them using art and music and dance as a form of resistance, as a form of popular education, as a form of mobilizing, as a form of organizing, right? And that's what Cabral talked about. Cabral talked about culture being a weapon, right? For resistance and for building. So those, I don't want to give away too much, but
no, it's all relevant. It's all relevant.
That's just an insight. They're in the embryonic stages, and they're in their the baby Moses days, and we don't want Pharaoh to come in and slaughter the children.
Crush them. That's right.
Yeah.
You mentioned COP30 and how involved many of the Congolese youth were in Belém and building, most importantly, with other youth from the global South, if you will, seeing that the problems are the same, but the solutions are the same as well. I mean, wherever you go, people are talking about agri-liberation. They're talking about connection to the land. We saw the protests broke out from the indigenous population there in the rainforest saying, listen, this COP30, even our President Lula not serving us, not serving our needs. So for those that may not be familiar, just talk to us how important the Congo is to climate justice, to climate change, what the severity. I mean, we saw we've seen typhoons. We saw, sadly, the mine there collapse, but we've seen other tragic weather forces that are wholly avoidable, only happening because of our inability to stop what is happening, and really our inability in the West to really say, okay, we're going to do what we need to do, our part, which is the biggest part, to stem the tide of climate change to the best of our ability. So talk to us about the importance of the Congo to this fight and to a world where climate change can be averted.
Yes. Congo is indispensable in combating the climate crisis, in confronting the climate emergency. The Congo is often referred to as the second lung of the world behind the Amazon, the Congo Basin. And the Congo Basin itself, Congo occupies over 62% of the Congo Basin. It's a major regulator of the climate. And although referred to as the second lung of the world, Katia, Congo sequesters more carbon than the Amazon and Borneo combined. So it is a vital carbon sink for the planet as a whole. In addition to that, Congo is home to the largest tropical peatlands in the world, right? The peatlands is an area in the Congo Basin the size of England, where sediment and foliage has accumulated over thousands of years and has trapped carbon in the soil. And if that carbon is released, if it's not protected, it can produce up to 20 years of pollution that we see coming from the United States from the burning of fossil fuels. So, and the primary people responsible for the protection of the peatlands are the indigenous people, right? Who are often overshadowed and overlooked. In fact, the Basanjo Coalition has produced 2 films that it screened at COP on the peatlands itself, which is particularly interesting because peatlands are really swamp, but the filmmakers have found a way to make it to get the essence of the story out. So when we talk about combating the climate crisis, the Congo Basin, you cannot talk about combating the climate crisis, climate justice, even just transition, as they had a discussion in Belém at COP. You cannot talk about any of those issues without talking about the Congo, if you're serious about resolving them. Now, what the world is mobilized around, to one of the paths to mitigate the climate crisis is to say, well, we have to phase out the combustion engine, right? And we have to move into green energy.
Right. And there's the rub. There's the rub.
Right,
That's
there's
what we
the rub.
don't get. Yeah.
Right, to mitigate the climate crisis. Now, as we know, this green energy transition is a battery-driven transition, whether it's the battery for electric vehicles, the battery in the power packs for the solar panels and the wind turbines. It's battery-driven, right, in large part. And there's a key ingredient to make battery function at its optimum, and it's called cobalt. And it just so happens that the lion's share of cobalt that's produced in the world comes out of the Congo. Congo produces over 70% of the world's cobalt, sometimes referred to as the Saudi Arabia of the electric vehicle industry, right? So if you were to add up all the countries in the world that produce cobalt, they wouldn't equal what Congo produces, right? Even the non-mechanized production of cobalt by what they call informal or small-scale workers, or sometimes referred to as artisanal workers. Mm-hmm. If you were to take what they produce in terms with their hand and rudimentary tools and take that into account, they would be the second largest producers of cobalt in the world, right? Yet they live on less than $2 a day for the most part. So when it comes to combating the climate crisis, mitigating the climate crisis, Congo looms large through its rainforests, which are the primary domain of the people. And that means the people, the indigenous community, are the ones that we're going to rely on to protect this patrimony of the planet. And Congo looms large in terms of the mitigation, where its minerals, its cobalt, its copper, its lithium are indispensable for powering this green energy transition. Therefore, it's incumbent upon us, those who are at the top of the supply chain, the labor unions who are advocating for the workers in Detroit, right? The climate justice groups who are mobilizing around the climate emergency, to take into consideration and bring into the fold those at the bottom of the supply chain, those who are deep in the Congo rainforest, and make them part of the equation as we advocate for a different world. We cannot advocate for a different world without including the diggers from the Congo. We cannot advocate for a different world without including the indigenous communities in Mbandaka and around Mbandaka and around in the Isangi district in the heart of the Congo Basin rainforest. So that's the importance, not only the resources and the land, but also the people. They must be brought into the fold in our narrative, in our organizing, in our decision-making process. That is vital. And that's up to us. We don't have to get permission from Donald Trump or anyone else to do that.
Well, we don't need to get permission for anything from but finally, Maurice, in these last few moments, and thank you for setting this up. Thank you to Jessica and Elvie for being with us. Quito for just amplifying not only the work of Friends of the Congo, but today amplifying the work of WPFW. If I can give, if you don't mind, I will give a plug for people that may be watching or will watch later and don't know WPFW. Look us up. You can go to our website, WPFWFM.org. This is, of course, 2 days ago was Giving Tuesday, but we are taking donations up until all the time, even beyond the end of the month. But certainly this is the time to give. And we are people powered. And we are the outlet that allows for these, other outlets, of course, and Friends of the Congo has so many outlets, but we are one among them that really tries to keep this in front of our people here. And we stream worldwide. We have an app you can download.
Yes.
But we try to keep this conversation going because it is so important. And again, it is the vehicle to get to liberation, right? One of the tools to use, the education. So I want to really quickly, they're back.
They're back.
Okay, so Maurice, we have literally like 2 minutes. So Maurice, all there. Okay, so Jessica, Maurice is giving it over to you as we wrap. 2 minutes. What can people do? What should we be doing to support the work to support, first of all, the Congolese people and the people throughout the African continent in terms of total, absolute sovereignty and liberation. So what can we do? And specifically around the Congo, what can we do?
I want to give it to Elvie because she's been here since 11 o'clock.
Okay, Elvie. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Elvie.
Hi. So I think what people can do most importantly is to educate themselves. I think that is the best start. I think given what we talked about before with the different factions and how people's positionality really guides their interest in what's happening in Congo, first and foremost would be to educate yourself about imperialism and what imperialism looks like in Africa. So once you have that understanding, then you can sort of see how the different players and actors are moving and what's guiding them and what is actually best for people on the ground. And another way, in addition to educating yourself, would be to try to find some grassroots organizations that are helping on the continent. So one of which you all are all familiar with already, with Friends of the Congo and the work that they do with various different civil groups in Congo. And then one of which is ours, the Future of Congo, and some of the different work that we do with helping folks who are displaced, helping children with free schooling, helping with free healthcare services, and just essential items. I think that's some of the ways that you can circumvent some of the foreign and transnational aggression that's happening by uplifting and building and supporting the communities who are trying to alleviate as much suffering as they're experiencing out of this. And then also, I think something that's even more important is to interject Congo in all conversations that you're having.
Thank you, Elvie. We have to leave it there. We're up against our headline news. Maurice Carney, Elvie, Jessica, and all the crew that's in the car, they're leaving the rally, I think. We thank you so much. Up next at 3 p.m. is Jazz Stories with Josh Myers, and headline news for those who are continuing on with WPFW, WPFWFM.org. Thank you all. Peace.
Thank you, Katia. Thank WPFW.
Oof. That was a crazy hour.